Hello, staff at Keller ISD. This is our what appears to be now just a weekly update and a weekly conversation with you guys regarding all things happening Keller ISD. So as before, I always want to be sure we're talking about the positive things, the celebrations that we have, and I have a few things I want to make sure we're discussing before we jump into the agenda. First is our celebrations, and it's just some data that I think is important for people to know if you're not following on Twitter, where I will put out some daily or either every other day celebrations about how we're taking care of our kids. I want you to hear some of these numbers. As of today, we were pushing devices out and Chromebooks out for our kids to get up and running. We have handed out 7,100 devices to our kids who needed something at home in order to do this, which is pretty amazing. We have served over 68,000 meals since we have closed both breakfast and lunches. So that's, again, an amazing accomplishment, not only for Sodexo, but for our health services team and our safety and security team. And if you missed it, there was a highlight on the news this morning on NBC5 that we were highlighting, or they were highlighting, our special needs virtual prom. So our special ed kiddos had prom set up for this past weekend, and obviously they were not able to have that prom. So our special ed crew, along with our high school staff, got together and they created an opportunity for those kids to Zoom into a special ed prom, which was just a blast to watch, and to see the kids. They were dressed up, they were dancing. I believe, if I heard correctly, Mr. Yondo over at Timber Creek had put together the entire music playlist for them. So that was just an amazing thing. And it continues to scream in a positive way the things that we're figuring out how to take care of our kids. And for some people, it might seem like a little thing, but those kinds of things are massive. So I just want to thank all the people that were a part of that, because that was a huge celebration. And so one thing that I also want to do as part of our welcome is to go back to August in our convocation, and we talked about our why again, and we talked about how important it was to make sure that we were grounded in our why, and we even went into writing down on cards a word that would help you connect to your why. I've talked about that again here already. I've talked about grace and mercy. You've seen that in my communications. That actually, that's 2 words. I get it. But that connects me to my why. And again, I'll remind you what my why is. I'll read it to you. To help people where they are, and if I can't help them, try to learn how I can. And now more than ever, I have been trying to figure out and to fuel my why on how we're moving through this time. But I would encourage you. I've seen lots of people on social media talking about how that even in this weird way of having to do school, how their why is being driven and how their why is being fueled. And I would encourage you to go find that card. If you don't have that card, go back into your memory and think, okay, so what was that word that I wrote down? And keep connecting yourself back to what you're grounded in, what fuels you, what drives you. Because that's what's going to get us through these next weeks. So that transitions into the latest announcement. So by now you have heard, you've seen, you've read what Governor Abbott had talked about, the extension of closures. His order actually goes through April the 30th, but then he also talked about how, mainly because it's a Thursday, he didn't anticipate schools being opened like the very next day on the 1st. So we would be reopening or tentatively reopening on May the 4th, which is that Monday after that. I will tell you that we are continuing to listen. Obviously, that's an order from the governor, so we're shut down until then. And as we get closer to that, we're going to keep listening to some advice. But now that we're creeping into May, which was even hard to hear, to be honest, that we would not even be thinking about opening until May the 4th. Some employees have asked the question, and I'll go ahead and address it here. Are we thinking about just calling it and saying, you know what, coming back for essentially what's going to amount to 2.5 to 3 weeks of school? I will tell you with some of the things that are in my mind right now, that's not a consideration in terms of the closure. I know that some larger districts around us have used the word either closed indefinitely or closed until further notice. I do want to take care of one particular rumor, is that those two terms can be interpreted into they're closed for the year, which they might be. It could end up being going that direction, but they haven't made that announcement. They've announced indefinitely, or they've announced until further notice. So I do want to be sure you know that none of them, to my knowledge, have said we're done for the rest of the year. They've just not put a hard date on an attempt to come back. So that piece being said, certainly those conversations are going to start happening now that we're not even allowed to open until May the 4th. We're going to have to start having some of that dialogue about what does that look like. And I'll tell you what some of my thinking is right now. Some of my thinking is it more disruptive to come back for 2.5 to 3 weeks now that after we get into a little bit of a groove in April? Will it be more disruptive to bring them back? Are there going to be some positives to bring them back? Will parents even send their kids back after May the 4th because of all the things that are going to be going on? So I think we just need to go into this eyes wide open. As we have talked about through all of these faculty meetings, I am going to be 100% as transparent as possible as I can with you. And when I say as possible, meaning what I know. And I will tell you what I'm thinking, and sometimes that might mean I get ahead of a decision point, but I want everyone to hear me say, and our staff to hear me say, that you're seeing the same news I'm seeing. Yes, I'm on calls daily with some other people, but you're seeing the same news. And if you go back and you watch the news, and then you watch what the responses are from the state, you can start to see the trend of what's happening. So as we move through April, we're going to hear more and more and get more and more guidelines. And if it gets as bad as what we are being told it might get, there's a real chance that even if they say, okay, we're past that curve and we can go back on May the 4th, then we have to think about the psychology of just even coming back into a school or being back altogether again. That's going to be part of it. But no decision has been made from Keller or really any of the other surrounding what I would call suburb school districts that I'm in conversation with regarding long-term planning. But we're going to have start having those conversations just to see how we end up how do we finish out this school year in a manner that makes sense, not only for our kids, but for our staff. So there's that part of it. When and if we come back from staff start, and then the students start a day later. So one question that just popped up was, if we do come back, can we come back kind of like not all at once? And that, to be honest, that's part of the conversation. What we're going to have to do is ramp up food service, ramp up technology, ramp up staff's mindset, not unlike what we do at the beginning of a school year or even the beginning of a semester, where we have like a professional development day before kids come back. So that's a great feedback, and we'll make sure we think about that as we dialogue about how to come back to school, hopefully if and when we get to that point. All right, so here's a great celebration. I mean, it was kind of more the agenda part, but it's a celebration piece, because I know you're all wanting and figuring out ways to fill your time because you just got nothing to do, which I know is not true. But EQ time, you always think, well, that's just a July thing, that's an August thing, I got to go, watch my videos, right? Well, we are going to let you front load requirements for next year when it comes to compliance videos. So I know you're super excited about compliance videos, and that we're talking about that on April the 1st. It's not April Fool's, but EQ time will be something that you can start chipping away at because of compliance videos. And there's really one reason why this even came up. There is a new cybersecurity compliance video that is required, not by us, but by the state. And we have partnered with Safe Schools Online to do that. It is, I'm certain, I haven't seen it yet, but a thoroughly engaging set of videos for cybersecurity that we all are mandated to watch and move through. I've been told it's 2 hours worth of videos, which it's 2 hours worth of videos talking about cybersecurity. So get your popcorn ready and, enjoy some time in front of the laptop while you knock that out. But I will tell you that is required for this year. We have to have that done this year, but we're going to allow you to apply that. If you've already got all your EQ time, we're going to allow you to apply that to next year's EQ. So we're trying to help out wherever we can when there's some new mandates that come our way. Employees needing support. So there is obviously, you know, we're doing a lot of work trying to make sure we're taking care of our kids, and we also are fully aware that we have staff who are in need as well, because you're juggling multiple balls in the air right now. You're teaching, you're taking care of your kids. There's just so many different things happening right now, or even just not being able to connect face to face with people. I know that can be even a toll and a drain on people. So I think my amazing comms team is putting some stuff in the chat piece at this point. But please make sure you're taking advantage of the employee assistance program that we have. There's info on K-Cloud on the human resources folder. It's available to anyone and everyone, not just those who are on our healthcare plan. So if you need help with anything, just when it comes to an emotional piece or a financial piece or otherwise, make sure you're taking advantage of our employee assistance program. It's not just for people signed up for our medical plan. Everybody has access to this. So I would hate for you to miss out on an opportunity to get yourself some help just because you didn't know how to do it or even knew that it was there. So please be aware of that and check out the chat. The e-learning update and grading update. So we pushed out a lot of information last week. I will give kudos to our staff and our C&I team, our principals who work through a lot of this stuff, trying to get us up and running for what does school look like once this thing gets into more of a routine. And so we try to create routines. We were working on helping create routines for our parents because they were getting inundated with emails. So you saw a little bit of that on the e-learning update. You also saw some working on some scheduling so that teachers can have some normalcy and routines. So that piece is there as well. I will tell you that as it relates to our e-learning part, we're doing a lot of Zoom. Obviously, this is Zoom. We're going to have to put some things in place long term. We have, with anything good, people have to be bad about it. And so we have things happening nationwide where people know that these Zoom meetings are happening, and so they're getting into them because they're not password protected. So I'm giving you fair warning that you're getting ready to see some items that are going to come out that are going to be requirements that we're going to have to do to put in place, both from a staff education point of view and from a student education point of view, while we keep using this platform for education. But I'll tell you one thing for sure, we're going to have to turn on a switch, and that switch is we're going to have to password protect our Zoom meetings so that people can't get in that aren't supposed to be there. There'll be more things. Things are out on K-Cloud. Things are out on those tiles that we have out there. And if you haven't been there, you really need to get there, because that's where we have a lot of stuff. But we'll also push you information on how to have these Zoom meetings in a way that's safe for yourself and for your kids. I will say that speaking of the e-learning updates and the grading updates, the grading update, and this is obviously probably more specific for kids taking high school credit courses. We did everything we could do to err on the side of the kid. So if you haven't had a chance to read through it, when you read through it, I hope what you see is that we could not, in good conscience, do anything that would in any way harm the student, given the fact that we don't know levels of ability of being able to learn on this kind of a platform, connectivity that kids have. Even though we handed out 7,100 devices, not everybody has internet access. So just because they have a device doesn't mean they can connect. And so we're still trying to figure that piece out. I know we still have staff members who are even trying to reach kids for the first time. So we're trying to make sure that we're taking care of our kids through all of this, and that even involved our grading guideline update just for this fourth 9 weeks. So as teachers, just keep working with your principals, if you haven't done that already, on what does that look like, and what does a pass or a fail look like for our campus or for our grade levels or for our specific subject areas. And then as long as we're doing the very best we can do by our kids, then we're going to land exactly where we need to be as it relates to that. But I do want to address a question that came up as a result of that push out. One question came up was, is there any way that as staff members, can we have some a little bit more of a heads up before things push out to our parents? And so I will tell you now, I'm taking that one. That one's on me. We were in this kind of a setting, which we're obviously really never in, and hopefully never will be in again. Communication comes fast, and we've got to push stuff out sometimes. And when we're relying on email and we're relying on electronic things, we don't really know who's got what when. We know we've pushed stuff out, but we don't know whether or not people have had a really good opportunity to see it yet. I wanted to make sure our community saw what we were talking about, and looking back on it, probably could have slowed down to give teachers enough time to absorb it before you got pinged by parents of, hey, I just got this email, and you as teachers were like, well, yeah, I'm reading it with you, so just hang on and I'll get back to you. So I know that's not ideal, and I apologize for that. So moving forward, any kind of big announcements like that, hopefully we don't have any more big announcements. This is kind of setting the stage and the foundation for the rest of how we're going to do business. But any more big announcements like that, we'll be sure to give our staff more time to digest it before they get hit by parents with questions. So sorry about that, but we'll get better. April the 10th. So April the 10th, if you look at your calendar, April the 10th is a bad weather day. Well, good grief. I mean, what does that even mean anymore at this point? So we have decided collectively, because of the missing waiver or missing days waiver that we're going to be able to submit with TEA, that April 10th is still going to be a holiday, so or bad weather day, where we would not have been in school anyway. So April 10th, you can put it on your calendar. You can talk to your kids and your parents about the fact that I guess if parents want to keep working with their kids on that day, that's fine. But that is a day off where people can just not be engaged with school on that day, which I think will be greatly received by everybody involved. So just be aware of that April the 10th, we are going to honor that as our holiday or day off. Let's talk a little bit about prom and graduation. I talked about this in our most recent community update. What I told the community was, yes, we are going to have graduation in some form or fashion. We are going to have senior graduation. The class of 2020 deserve to have something. If we get an order that all is well and we don't have to restrict the number of people in one place at one time, then May 23rd will still be graduation. But our student services team has also secured another date in July for our emergency backup plan. Still the same venue, but our emergency backup plan, so that we will still have a graduation if we have to cancel the May 23rd date. And then I guess worst case scenario, if it still is a problem at the end of July, then obviously we'll have to be done at that point. But surely, I'm just going to hold out hope on that one, and surely we'll be done with all this by then. But we do have backup plan for graduation. For proms, we're working on that right now. So if anybody is getting questions about prom, or you're curious yourself about prom, I know that one of our high schools has prom at the end of April, which obviously this order eliminates that. So our student services team is also working with our high school principals and high school administrative teams to determine if there's a way to reschedule prom. So to my knowledge, unless something has happened in the last 2 or 3 hours, nothing's been canceled on proms, but we're working on rescheduling proms. And as soon as we get those specific dates and times, we'll get those out to our kids. And we're working on that as fast as possible. All right. So that was my initial agenda. And again, what it starts with a couple questions from employees turns into now almost like a page and a half. So I will work through this the best I can, and I'll try to get as much clarity. And I'm certain there'll be some things on here I don't have the answer to, but we'll get you an answer as fast as possible. So let's talk about paraprofessionals. What exactly can paraprofessionals do during this closure time? Are there any guidelines that state what paraprofessionals cannot do? Here's what I would suggest to that. So obviously we've talked about paraprofessionals and the need to not go over, you can't go over 37 and a half hours, even in this round. So if you're working, if you're doing things, you still can't go over your 37 and a half hours. But what you can or cannot do needs to be a conversation with your campus administration if you're on a campus. If you're not on a campus, it needs to be with your supervisor in terms of what are you allowed to do and what are you not allowed to do. One example was, can you start Zoom meetings? I don't know. I hadn't really thought about that. So please just make sure you're having that conversation. If the principal isn't aware or isn't sure, then they'll ask the questions and they can give you some guidance. But we don't have a list of do's and here's what you can and cannot do, because I think there's going to be so much of a case-by-case basis in terms of what might be needed. I don't want to just rule things out and then it'd be okay. So let's just handle that with your own supervisors, and then we can go from there. Payroll deductions for things like Keller Point, et cetera, can those be stopped during this time since they're shut down? I was trying to think of other examples other than Keller Point. There might be some other ones where maybe you're not able to take advantage of the services, but your payroll is still being deducted. Keep in mind that we are the pass-through. So it's not up to us as to whether or not we stop payroll deduction. It's actually up to the vendor on whether or not they're going to stop collecting that. And I know that specifically to Keller Point, they're working on trying to figure out some different plans on times used. Are they going to have to refund things? But that's for a different time to do that. So we don't have the ability to stop the payroll deductions, but that doesn't mean that who we're payroll deducting for isn't going to still be looking for some ways to alleviate some of those overpayments potentially. But that's not up to us to cease that. All right, I tackled that question. Do students have to repeat their current grade? So it sounds like there might be some misunderstanding out there that potentially Governor Abbott might have addressed something that got confused. If we're talking, and again, this is a general question. I know it came from a high school teacher, so it might be specific to high school. The only reason why a student would have to repeat is if they failed their course over an annual average. And so in theory, no matter what we do for this fourth 9 weeks, and as kind as we are in terms of our grading, in theory, a student might still fail for the year. And if they fail for the year, then they're into the same boat like we would be for any other year, where there's opportunities to make up the credit and Edgenuity, or there's other ways to do that. So I don't foresee, and I've never heard like a blanket, kids are going to have to make up their grade. So I'll just leave it at that, because I'm not sure specifically what the question is, but I can tell you that we're going to be given ample opportunities to allow our kids to make up whatever credits they might miss as a result of averaged semester grades. But I don't think that's going to be any different than what it would be any other time. How will graduating seniors pay off any fines they owe to their school? Well, if we're back, then we'll get it then. But if for some reason we're not back and this goes through the end of the school year, then we're going to have to come up with some sort of a process to try to figure out how to get recoup some of that money. But that'll be a question. I'm glad you asked the question, because that'll be a question we'll have to start talking about in terms of a leadership team, what we need to do to put in place in the event we don't come back and aren't able to capture some of those fees. Any news on Keller U? Will it happen? Will it go virtual? We're still going like planned for now. It's in the summer, so we're all crossing our fingers that things will be freed up a little bit more and we'll be able to do what we need to do. So planning still continues just exactly the way it has been planned. If for some reason it has to go virtual, everybody is mastering this whole Zoom thing. So, we've got people that can come up with some neat ideas on some things. So I guess in theory it could be that, but right now we're planning for it as is without changing anything. When are contracts being sent out? Teacher contracts go out after the April board meeting, April the 27th, which is our normal time frame anyway. So we're still having our board meetings. We had our board meeting on March this last month. Heck, I don't even remember what day it was now. But it was virtual and it was on Zoom, and it was, we pulled it off. So we'll do the same thing in April, where we approve contracts in mass, and then contracts will go out to the employees. Does Twitter post to Facebook as well? I don't tweet. Well, I don't know why you don't tweet. I mean, by now, and as I've said, you don't have to tweet. You can just, troll. You can just watch. You can be that person that, hides behind things and just, observes and stuff. But anyway, if you don't want to be on Twitter, that's fine. There are big updates that we send on the district Facebook page. But not everything that goes on Twitter also goes on Facebook. There is a way to connect it. I do know that. I will say that if you are not wanting to be on like an app on Twitter, you can actually get on the Twitter website, twitter.com/KellerISD. If you just want to see everything that Keller ISD does, I've never really looked at it from that angle, but I think you can see that even potentially without having an account. But that's one way you can do it. Or you can just set up an account, like I said. Do whatever you want to do. K1 report cards. How are we able to assess all the skills on the report card? The scale 1 to 4 is based on what we observed in the classroom. How can we justify to parents what I give them? So there's a lot of super detailed questions that I won't be able to get into here. Those are questions that have got to go back to principals. Principals can work with area soups with curriculum and instruction so that we can clarify some grading guidelines for it. It's a good question, but obviously we need to clarify some things to help you understand a little bit better how to put something on that K1 standards-based report card so that we can better communicate to parents what they can expect. But I'm glad you put it here so that we can follow up with it as well. Have you heard feedback on parents and students feeling overwhelmed receiving emails and work? Well, that's what initiated the e-learning stuff. Yeah, we were hammering people with emails. And that's what caused the let's at least put everything in on a Sunday. Let our parents receive everything on Sunday, and then they can kind of map out their week. That's the intent. So we've got to be sure we're following that. We can't say we're going to do something and then we just go with our old practice. So please make sure you're doing that piece of it. I'm looking at the next piece of this in terms of being overwhelmed. So initially we were getting at that, but here's what I will say, and I actually checked in a couple different ways with some parents and even on our social media side. That initial, I'll just call it a freak out, that when we were actually, this is actually going to happen and we're actually pushing work. Yes, that was an initial hit, but here's what helped. Our teachers, you guys have done an amazing job at communicating to our parents that all of this is going to be okay, and that we're all figuring this out, and that even though it feels initially overwhelming, we're all going to figure out how to move through this together. So even though the parents were feeling overwhelmed, I'm not saying it's 100%. Yes, there are going to still be parents that are feeling overwhelmed. But the more we reach out to our parents and the more we're just talking to them and working through it with them, not even just in large group, but even smaller, if you have to have a one-on-one Zoom, that is going to go a long way to helping relieve some of this anxiety that I know some of our parents, and I keep saying parents, I know that I'm talking to some of you right now because you're doing both. So that's going to go a long way, and I will continue to say it's never. We're not designed to be a K-12 online school permanently. This is not meant to be that, and so we know this is temporary. We know that this is something that's going to go away at some point. So what we're trying to do is just get people through it so that we don't again have too much of that gap as we move into the summer. So just be cognizant of that. Keep reaching out to your parents, keep reaching out to your kids. You're doing an amazing job because you've already been doing it. That's the response I'm getting personally. I receive emails, just a few, and overwhelmingly it is thank your staff so much from us because we are receiving the support that we need from our teachers. So again, I will thank you, but it's amazing work that you're doing. I heard the White House medical representative say the corona is cyclical and most likely will return in the fall. Are there conversations about this yet? No, there's not. And I don't know that. Well, I mean, we don't know that. That's about the biggest crystal ball moment that we could probably get to. So as we get into the summer and we see what's happening, if something's starting to ramp back up again, I guess we're gonna have to make some decisions in the fall. But for right now, do not let your mind go there because we're trying to figure out April. So let's figure out April, let's figure out May, and then we'll work on, summer and fall later. Will this affect the start date for the fall? No, the instructional calendar is the instructional calendar. So we've already set that start date. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what it is right now because it's not in front of me. But we, in the fall, we start up just like we normally would. None of this impacts summer. None of it impacts fall because of all of the things TEA has already put in place for waivers. So none of those pieces of the puzzle are going to impact either summer or next year. What if we if we do not come back, will we know sooner rather than later? I've already pretty much addressed it at the beginning of the video. As we have conversations about it, I'll let you guys know. But I can't tell you when, because we haven't had those deep conversations yet. We have to start analyzing what impacts we have, what impacts this makes, both coming back or just going ahead and calling it. But that's for conversations probably more this weekend into next week. Is there a place or a person who I, as a parent or staff member, can voice concerns about online learning and the effects on everyone's mental health? Sure, yeah, you can go to Improve Keller ISD and give us that feedback, and we'll make sure the right people get it. But that's true for anything. If you've got things you want to voice or express about some concerns, absolutely put it into Improve Keller ISD. It's right on our website. And we collect that and we make sure the right people are receiving it. And then obviously if it's an individual need, then we'll get you the support that you need. Someone had said, well, compliance videos cannot count as EQ. Yeah, I don't know. I already said it on this, so we're probably going to break a rule or two, but that's fine. So I've already said it. At a minimum, cybersecurity, I don't know if it can or not, but we're gonna figure it out, because the bottom line is we're doing a lot of things differently for the end of this fall. So we're going to make sure that the work that you're doing, you're already juggling multiple things as it is in this new world. So even if something technically in the past hasn't been, like a compliance video being able to count towards EQ, that's our own local policy. So we'll figure out how to make that work. On the cybersecurity videos, can we apply it to the 1920 EQ time? That's a good question, and I'll just have to get you an answer for that. I don't know where we're at on deadlines for EQ time for this current school year. So once we find out, we'll put that on an FAQ on our website and get back to that. What if I did a book study? Okay, more EQ questions. What if I did a book study from KCAL for some of my EQ credit, and my directions are to return the book to KCAL before they will give me credit? Keep the book. Just email. If I know this is specific to KCAL, but if you've got something else, any other campus that's been doing like a book study or something, just email your supervisor. We'll figure it out. But yeah, don't worry about that. And I don't want your book right now, so just keep it. I heard at a PLC meeting that if a student fails a high school course like English 1, then they will not be exempt from the corresponding STAR EOC. Is that true? I'll have to get clarification. I get where that question is going though, because technically if a student passes English 1 now, obviously they're not taking the EOC, which means they're never going to take the English 1 EOC. But if they fail English 1, then technically they're still having to take English 1 next year when the EOC would be given. So it could be that they still have to take the EOC. So I know that we'll have to look at some FAQs from TEA, but I know for sure if the kids pass the course, then the EOC's issues are gone. But it's just this year. So if I'm working through the logic of that, if they're having to take a course next year, no matter what it is, and we're still giving EOCs, then yes, they have to take the EOC because they had to take the course in the year that the EOC is given. But I can get you some clarification on that. And in fact, I just got a text from Jennifer Price about that specific question, and she said must get credit to be exempt. So there you go. So they've got to get credit for the English 1 or biology or algebra, whatever it would be that would be EOC related. But yeah, they have to get credit for it to be exempt. So if they don't get credit for it, that means they're taking it again when the EOC would be given. So there's the answer. My high school student had multiple Zoom meetings at the same time. How do you prioritize? Well, in theory, we're not going to do that. And that's part of what we're trying to figure out with this e-learning thing. So here's my suggestion. If you're in that situation, shoot an email to your teachers or shoot an email to the principal so they can help work on how we're scheduling these Zoom meetings, because obviously you can't be in 3 classes at the same time. And we're going to have to work on how to help students either prioritize that, because it could also be that our teachers who have kids at home might not be able to be in the Zoom meeting that makes sense for everybody. So there might be some of those issues, but for the most part, I know our principals are working on helping our teachers understand how to best schedule those so that we're not on top of each other. Any information on Genius Team interviews for next year? Don't know. Ed Technology's working on this information. and we'll push that out to you. Is there a need for volunteers to deliver meals to families that cannot make it to the schools? Not right now, because there's some food service guidelines and different districts are doing it a little bit differently. But given how we're dealing with this whole community spread issue, the less people that are involved in it, the better. So that volunteer piece is not available, but we are working on some possible options for some other volunteer opportunities if the need arises for different things. And if we can land that plan, then we'll let you know. Where can parents be directed for technology help for the Chromebook they had checked out? So here's the answer to that. Student tech help at kellerisd.net is where all students or parents should go. Student tech help at kellerisd.net. All right, Timber Creek did not take SAT in March due to test ordering error. We were told June 6th. That is too late for college, room board, scholarships. Unless I just get a magical text here, I will have to get back to you on that piece. I mean, the bottom line is right now, College Board's canceling SAT and ACT. So if we get some updates on when they're going to offer it, if they offer it sooner than June the 6th, then obviously we'll try to push that out as soon as we can. But it could be that that's the first time that College Board is actually offering the SAT, but we'll keep you posted. Regarding grading, can we get some clear parameters on what counts as participation? I believe I saw something yesterday that came out that principals are going to start helping teachers with, that helps delineate what participation looks like. So if you haven't talked to your principal yet, talk to your principal. I saw something that came to me in an email that was kind of be some common language that we were trying to use, but that's who you should get. And if the principal's going, Westfall, you're throwing me under the bus, I have no idea. Then to principals, talk to your area superintendents, because I know that there were some things being worked on regarding some parameters there. Does student present include a format like all right, I'm getting really specific comments about the grading piece, and frankly, I think those specific things, that's what our principals and our area soups are working on. So I'm not going to be able to address those right now, because it's going to be different depending on the grade level. But I'm going to keep saying that you really need to be, if you're not talking to your principals about how we're doing this grading stuff, then that's the first step. And if they're not sure yet, because we haven't dug through it deep enough yet, they need to be working with their area soups on what this all looks like. So I would go back that direction, and not in this particular format, because I just don't want to say something that might end up being wrong. If we go back to school and teachers go back before kids, we'll be open for those teachers. If we have to go back, I mean, then we'll figure out how to get KEEP open, because I know we've got teachers that rely on KEEP. So we'll do something. That'll be one of the systems we've got to get up and running in order to reopen school at the end of the year. Prospective July date for graduation. I honestly, the only reason why I didn't say it on this is because I just can't remember off the top of my head, and it's in a different document. So it's towards the end of July. It's a Saturday. We'll push that out because we will want to start communicating what that potential date is, so people can plan around it. But I just don't have it off the top of my head. But I know it's towards the end of July, and it's on a Saturday. But I'll get you that date as soon as we know. What about students that we haven't heard from and their parents don't respond to emails and phone calls? I was just in the middle of this conversation today. We're going to keep trying, and then we're going to have to make some decisions that if they just choose not to do the work because they choose not to connect to us, then that's going to be one of those decisions of a pass fail that we're going to have to make some decisions on. But again, those are conversations you've got to make sure you're having with your principals, because that's where the continuity is going to come out. But I will say that here's my opinion. This is not fact. This is my opinion. My opinion is, if a student is just choosing not to engage, that's the reason why we have a pass fail. I'm going to leave it at that. What about students? When will the maintenance department be going back to work? To some extent, it's starting. And Mr. Huff will be in contact with maintenance in terms of how to start rolling that back out, because we are going to have some things we've got to start working on, whether it's grounds or whether it's inside the buildings. He's actually working on, we just talked about this yesterday. He's working on a plan right now to make sure that we have a good plan mapped out on how to get back into campuses and continue doing the work we need to do. Will paras and hourly staff still be paid without having approval from the board until the end of close? We already have approval. That was March the 23rd. So we have a resolution. Hourly staff is paid until this thing expires. So you're good. We don't have to have approval on that every single month. What about our seniors who are playing spring sports? We will follow the UIL. So whatever the UIL is saying is what we're going to do. I know UIL was trying to get things up and running after May the 4th, I remember. And that just happened to be now in line with what Governor Abbott has said. So we'll see whether or not they're able to get that up and running. Can you send out meeting notes after this meeting? I don't know why. I mean, we go so fast. Can't you not tell, writing really quick? Realize we can watch the recording later. It'd be nice to refer to notes. What we do is there's a couple people on here that are actually tracking the questions, and then as I answer them, hopefully correctly, they're updating FAQs on our employee site. So that would be what I would suggest. Is that's our notes, is that we're trying to capture questions in a frequently asked question format and then put it over there. So please keep working there and keep checking that. When's Keller U sending out the signups for the sessions? I always look forward to the Rock Summit. Could that be virtual? Rock Summit is now part of Keller U. So you'll see some more communications about Keller U. I don't know exactly when the signups are going to go out. Student school transfer window, when does this start and end? Currently, it's open through May the 3rd. So student school transfer window is open through May the 3rd. And all of that is under the student resource section on kellerisd.net. So you got to get on our website and go take a look at it there. What about the ACT test that was canceled, but we paid for it? So that's going to be a question that we're going to have to deal with our assessment department in terms of getting refunded for. So if that goes back to, and I'm going to make a bigger statement than just ACT. So if there are things that we've paid for that have not been sent, like we haven't bought something with it, if it's still sitting on the district side, then we're working right now with finance on getting people reimbursed if they don't want to continue on with it. We've got some of that actually coming out from our AP testing. So we're working right now with trying to figure out how to refund some of these things if we're still the keeper of the money. If we're not the keeper of the money anymore, then it gets a little trickier because sometimes it's going to be a little harder to get the money back. What about graduation invitations, cap and gowns that have already been ordered and are supposed to be delivered to our high school, letter jackets, anything kind of delivery oriented? We still have a delivery process. We're still receiving it in the warehouse. And then the warehouse is actually communicating specifically with the campus on receipt. So it's still getting there. And then we're just having to receive it, and it's going to be stored somewhere on campus until we can get in there and do something with all of it. But it's not being held up anywhere. Summer camps, I'm just going to say right now that until as far as I'm concerned, it's on because we don't have a closure through summer. But if we hear something different, then we'll let you know. Someone's asking if the 13th is still off. 13th was never a holiday. I don't think we've got anything on the calendar that shows it was a holiday. Friday, April 10th is the off day, not the 13th. Hack turned off for parents. So hack is turned off for parents and students. It's often the only way we can communicate with some students and parents. Not sure why it's turned off, so we'll take a look at that and see why hack is current. Hack might have been turned off because of grading. That's the only thing I can think of in terms of finishing up the third 9 weeks. And then it might be flipped back on once we get the report cards going, but we'll check on that. Are teachers teaching new stuff through Zoom? Probably. I mean, once we get this thing rolling, there's probably some new stuff that's going to start going out through Zoom. That's the way they're going to connect. So that's one way to do that. What about the transfer fare? And I need a reminder on that, so I'm going to let someone. It's online right now, and we'll get you some dates, but if it gets typed in here fast enough by someone who's trying to type it out really fast, I'll let you know. Principals are going to reach out to you, to those who have put in for a transfer. Principals are going to reach out and do the interviewing online. Plans for ESY or SPED summer school. Again, anything summer school we're still planning, assuming that we're going to have all things, because hopefully we're going to be open and doing businesses as normal, at least for summer school. don't know, induction for National Honor Society. That's going to be a campus specific question that you're going to have to deal with in terms of how to manage that. Obviously, if we're not in school, then we're not going to be able to have the ceremony itself. But I'm certain that you guys can be creative with how to figure out how to do that induction. Is there a possibility for food services moving to 1 day or 2 days like other ISDs in the area has done? We haven't talked about that. I think Sodexo is still doing a good job of doing the everyday thing. The only reason why I would think we might have to scale back is just if they're having a hard time keeping up with food supply. But that's the only reason. They have not given me any insight or any kind of feedback that they need to scale back. So as far as I'm concerned right now, it's every day. Questions about EQ, GT for this present year and questions about insurance. Do I just email the corresponding person in charge? Absolutely. That is exactly what you should do. And you'll be able to get information back about any specific question. The plan for breakfast and lunch on Good Friday for the kids. I'm going to say something, but I'm not sure. I feel like I had a conversation about this yesterday. I think we're still serving, but I'm not certain of that. So don't go out and like say a lot of things about that. But I thought we were going to go ahead and I'm pretty sure we're still going to go ahead and do that. But we'll keep you guys posted on that if that's still going. If parents, students choose not to engage, can that be considered truancy? I don't know. I don't know how truancy would even work into that at this point. It would be pretty tough to justify, I think, because of the laws that surround truancy. ESL test deadline be extended for reimbursement. I'll get you an answer on that. Not sure. If we find out a student or their family has tested positive for COVID-19, are we supposed to report it to KISD? And is there a specific process for reporting without violating HIPAA? We have had tons of conversations about HIPAA. What we're doing right now is, as we learn from the health department, it's really a health department responsibility, not ours. So if the health department is getting positive results and they're in our community through some form or fashion, we should be communicated with. So I don't, you can have the conversation. You know, it's tricky. I don't want to put you guys in a bad situation. So I'm not gonna address that right now. We'll put that in an FAQ. I don't want to give some advice that ends up getting someone in trouble later. So I will tell you that we are supposed to get those positive results from the health department so that we can then do whatever level of communication we need to do, assuming that it's even okay for us to do it. So, but don't put yourself in a bad situation. But we'll get you some legal advice on that so that you guys know how to manage that. When do we get the exact July graduation date? Can we share that with friends? Again, I'm telling you, the only reason I don't have it in front of it's in a note somewhere else. So I will get it to you. But I'll make sure that we get that out soon so people can start making some alternate plans if they want or need to for that alternate date. Okay, so that's kind of a side note. All right, now I think that's it. Everything is done there. As I was just going through those questions, here's one thing that is becoming evident to me, and I'm gonna ask our staff a favor. We're getting, obviously we've got a lot of questions out there, and so I want to be sure that you are connecting with the people. And in fact, one person actually asked the question on there. You're connecting with the people who own the answer potentially, or is the department. If you have a question about something, you're not sure how something's working, you're not sure about grading or whatever else, if you haven't talked to your principal, that is your very, very first step. And if you're not getting an answer, or if they're not saying the principals aren't answering you, if they're collectively not sure, or if you and the principal aren't sure, then the principal will go find out the answer for you, just like what I'm doing. If I get a question, I'm not sure about it, I'm going to get you the answer. It's going to be in that FAQ piece. But my fear is that if we address some of those questions here, and then I start answering some things, or we put it out on FAQ, then we've missed a big communication piece actually on your own campus. So please make sure you're talking to your principals, and then if they don't know the answer, they will then talk to the people that they know they can get the answer from. But but I just want to be sure, because there was a lot of those kinds of questions in this particular session. And I will answer everything that I know the answer to. But I'm also going to point people to where you can get the answer, and you'll actually get it a lot faster than sometimes even just waiting on this particular session. So here's what I'm going to end with. We talked a little bit about how the extension to April the 30th, potentially opening on May the 4th, how might that impact some other things? And when I was having this conversation with our board, we talked about the fact that the next board meeting would be on April the 27th. And then one of our board members, I'm not going to say who, suggested or actually made a comment about, oh my gosh, it will have been 6 to 8 weeks since we've seen a hairdresser or something. So there's no telling what we're going to look like in this, video after so long. So maybe this is like the no haircut challenge for April, kind of like November, no shave November. So let's just see what we're actually going to look like collectively, through April, when everything is shut down in terms of being able to go to a barbershop or anything else. It's going to be really funny. And I know specifically Corey Wilson has some hair clippers that he has already talked about being able to just, do the sheepdog shearing of his head. So he might, in the right moment and disinfecting moment, share those with you. But other than that, it'll be a really interesting no haircut April moment for Keller ISD staff as we work through these fun video conferences. So we fielded a ton of stuff on this thing. We're going to keep populating that FAQ. I will keep encouraging you to go find those answers on the FAQ. Keep talking to your colleagues, to your principals. If you're getting frustrated, that's okay. I get it. I get the frustration piece. But we're going to work through this together like we do any other time, and fight through it. And I guess until next week, we'll tackle some more stuff. So thanks for signing in. Thanks for joining in. If you're watching this recorded, thanks for hopping on later. But have a great rest of your day and week. And it's sunny outside, so take advantage of that before it starts raining again. Have a great day.